There, this is Sarah. I'm here to talk to you today about one of our tough topics, but the topic is advanced directives. For those of you who might not know what an advanced directive is, it's something that you put in place so that people know your wishes. And it's not just for older adults, it's for adults in general. I recommend that all adults have these in place because you never know when you might need them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through several of the advanced directives and kind of show you how to fill them out and also tell you what the importance of having each one is. So I'm going to start with the power of attorney for property/finance. And the reason that I'm starting with this one is because this is the document that I would recommend you complete with an attorney. And that's because there are a lot of specifics regarding different aspects of finances. This document also has to be notarized. So I never go through and explain how to fill this out because there are so many idiosyncrasies regarding the different money aspects, property aspects. If you have multiple individuals who are on the document, it can get a little tricky. So for this one, I do recommend that you work with an attorney in order to fill it out. Additionally, more recently, a lot of banks and institutions will not simply take this by itself. If you were going to help an older adult or a loved one, this doesn't necessarily stand alone. However, if it is completed with an attorney, it has much more credence than if it was just done and then notarized. So if ever you need a copy of the document, we do have them here at the library, and we also are going to be providing them for curbside pickup as well. The next couple of documents that I'm going to go through are healthcare wishes. And so the first one is the power of attorney for healthcare. Now, the most important thing to know about the power of attorney for healthcare is this only goes into effect if you are unable to express your wishes, which is why I recommend that any adult have one of these, because you never know, God forbid, what might happen. You might step outside and be hit by a bus. Hopefully you won't, but if you were, and you ended up in the hospital and you're not able to voice your individual preferences, if you do not have one of these documents, there might not be someone there to speak for you. So the power of attorney for healthcare is really very simple to fill out. It doesn't need to be notarized, and it can be changed at any time. The most current document is always the one that's valid. And so basically, you put your name and your address. You put who you want to be your power of attorney. So when you're deciding who you want to be your power of attorney, you want it to be someone who knows your wishes and who you trust to actually honor them when the time comes. I also recommend on the back, you can have multiples. So you can have up to 3 individuals on this form. So if in the event that the first person who is your primary power of attorney is not able to be reached, they can go to the next person, and then they can go to the next person. This is also very important if you do have an older adult loved one who is in a long-term care community, because most long-term care communities or assisted living or any of those will not be able to speak to you about your loved one's health concerns if you are not on this form. And so, again, it goes through and there's areas where you can specify what you are comfortable with someone deciding for you. You can rule out things. You can also, there's a part where you can put limitations. So if there are certain things that you don't want your power of attorney to decide for you, you can include those there. This one actually goes hand in hand with the next document that I will show you, which is the practitioner order for life-sustaining treatment, which looks like this. This is basically the newer version of what was formerly called the DNR. And the reason I say that this leads into is because you want to make sure that what is listed on here matches what is listed on this document here. So this document again, the initial question is about whether if somebody comes upon you and you have no pulse and you're not breathing, and for all intents and purposes you are deceased. That is the only time the DNR part comes into play. So your options are resuscitate, attempt resuscitation, or do not. So if you select do not, basically leave me be. If I'm gone, I'm gone. If you select attempt, then they'll make every effort to bring you back. I have a lot of people who have questions about this. It's a gamble in doing the attempt resuscitation because you never know how long someone has been incapacitated. So if someone has been not breathing and has no pulse for 10 seconds and you come upon them, it might be very different than someone who has 10 minutes. And so this is considered full code. And you do have, in my experience, a lot of people who will do the full code because they're willing to take that chance, with the understanding that their power of attorney knows that if ultimately their quality of life will be very poor if they're resuscitated, that the power of attorney knows this is not what I want. If you check the box that says attempt resuscitation, in the second, that means you're agreeing to full treatment. Now, full treatment would include everything, including ventilator, life support, etc. If you choose do not attempt resuscitation, you still would go to this next selection. And the options are comfort-focused treatment, which basically is we're going to do whatever we can to keep you comfortable. It's more of the hospice model. The second one is selective treatment. That's basically comfort measures plus. So you're saying, I want to be comfortable, but if I need to be on a CPAP or a BiPAP machine temporarily, I'm willing to do that. If I need to go to the hospital to get an IV treatment to make my quality of life better, I'm willing to do that. So you check the box here, you're going to check the box here. The next one is about nutrition. So your options for that is basically, yes, I'm willing to have a feeding tube. No, I'm not willing to have a feeding tube. And or, yes, I'm willing to have it for a specific amount of time. You can actually specify the amount of time, or you can put something in along the lines of my power of attorney will determine whether or not this is something that is in line with my wishes. You basically check off who was present for the conversation. You're going to sign. You're going to have a witness who is not a family member or someone associated with your power of attorney choice. And then this has to be signed by your physician. This is very important because especially if you do select the do not attempt resuscitation, it will not be valid unless it's signed by your physician. Otherwise, you're automatically full code. On the back, again, you're going to put who you designated as your person, and then you're also going to include what other advanced directives you have, so your healthcare power of attorney, etc. And again, at any point, if you have questions about this form, I am around, and I'm going to be doing more to be available to answer questions about filling out paperwork such as this. One of the newer advanced directives is called the 5 Wishes. The 5 Wishes is a booklet, and it has a bit more details where you can put more information about what you are wanting and what you are not wanting. This is very helpful to your power of attorney because, again, it goes through and it lists specifics about the things that you want. A lot of times, if someone doesn't have a spouse or a child or a parent, and they're using a friend or a relative that's kind of more distant, something like this is super helpful. Not only because it makes you think yourself about what your wishes are, it asks those questions that you might not think to ask yourself, but also it gives kind of a guidebook for the person who is your power of attorney to reference in case they have a question, in case something comes up and they're unsure about what you would want. It would be all documented in here. And then the final thing that I just wanted to kind of show you is this book is an example of the type of book that is even more than just the 5 wishes. So this book asks all kinds of questions about what your wishes are. It's one of those things that, again, it makes you think about what your wishes are, but it also makes it much easier for family, friends, your power of attorney, etc., to know what you would want when you are not able to speak for yourself. The book also lists things. You can list your personal details, you can list information about your finances, where you can find login information for all of your different accounts. It does final thoughts. If you want to write a letter to someone, you can include it in here. And this is just one example of this type of book. There's a lot of these books out there. If you go on Amazon and type in end of life wishes, you'll find all kinds of them. This is just one that I have always found to be very thorough and a really good book for you to get yourself thinking about what you want, and also to make sure that those around you know your specific wishes. Because again, do you want some random person to decide what happens for you for your end of life? Do you want a stranger making those decisions for you, or do you want to have decided yourself what kind of life you want to live? Quality of life versus quantity of life. It's what you are comfortable with, and it's very, very important that you make sure that your loved ones know what you want. That way, those wishes can be honored.